Welcome, humans and other beings out there to Quadrupod Studios, returning today, a day in March 2022, with today's host, Kit Warren, and we have a guest, Maximillian, and I'm unfamiliar with his last name. If he wants to put it out there, he can. Otherwise, we will continue. Kit, welcome. Max, welcome.
Well done, Robin. Thanks very much. Max, welcome to Quadrupod Studios here in Victoria, BC, North Park, to be exact, in the little heart of the city. And we're super glad to have you on the show today to discuss human health, testing of different vibrations within the ecosystem that we call our body. And I think this is going to be an episode that will really show people pathways to success when they talk about and communicate these things. So I'm super pumped because I've been through the process, and welcome everybody to listen and watch and learn about what we're going to discuss today.
Yeah, thank you so much for having me. I'm super stoked to be here, and it's a topic that's obviously a huge passion of mine. So it always gets me really excited to dive into it, because I know with this kind of topic, energy medicine, assessing our own energy fields for health and well-being, I know we can always dive pretty deep and hopefully present some insights that will serve everyone listening.
Mm-hmm. Cool. So on the topic of energy healing, what does that mean? Like, what's going on? Like, for people that are tuning in and they go to their doctor and they do their regular checkups, and they feel like they're in good health. They feel like they're doing the right things, but could some of the pitfalls or the corporations or the SAD diet, or the standard American diet, could it be corporations that are causing influctuations in the vibration of clarity for some people?
I think that's certainly possible, and probably in a lot of places around the world the case.
Yeah.
For me, when it comes to energy and energetic assessments, it makes a lot of sense, because we live in this universe where everything is energy. And one thing I realized when I was dealing with my own chronic health condition, I realized that it's really important that we get down to the root, that we're able to figure out, okay, what is at the root of someone's health concern, whether that is acute or something that's chronic, that people may have had for years or sometimes even decades. Mm-hmm. And the medical system that we're used to is very much focused on the symptoms, and it certainly has its place when it comes to performing surgeries and so forth. But there are certain things that I've come to realize, especially when we're dealing with chronic conditions, that it really starts to have its limitations, and people experience these limitations. They go, okay, the drugs that the medications that are being prescribed, they really only mask the symptoms, and as soon as I stop taking them, things come back, and sometimes things come back with so much more veracity. Mm-hmm. And again, coming back to my own healing journey, I realized that if we want to truly figure out how we can heal ourselves, in other words, how we can move from a state where we feel unwell or uncomfortable in our own skin to a state of well-being and balance, homeostasis, we really need to figure out, okay, what's at the foundation of it all? Why is a person experiencing this? Mm-hmm. Not so much in regards to what are the symptoms a person's experiencing, but really what's at the foundational level. And as I said a minute ago, the universe, everything is energy. Everything is frequency. So one thing that became clear for me was when we look at a person energetically.
So I have a quick question then.
Absolutely.
Is kosher an energy change in the raising and the butchering of the animal and then the food source? Would that be an energetic thing that you're talking about?
Yeah, absolutely.
Okay.
In fact, we can look at everything as an exchange of energy. And sometimes this exchange is very obvious.
Mm-hmm.
I'm thinking about two people making love. There's an exchange of energy.
Yep.
In other cases, it may not be so obvious that it's always an exchange. Sometimes it might seem like it's a one-way street. For instance, two people talking, but one person is talking, the other person is listening.
Yep.
It might seem like, in our case, for instance, I'm giving off energy, and you're receiving this energy through sound waves.
Yep.
But at the same time, there is energy that's being emitted from you that I'm receiving in the form of other forms of energy, so to speak, not necessarily a sound wave. So there's always an exchange of energy. And coming back to your question, whatever we're engaging in, this energy is always exchanging. We're always exchanging energy between ourselves and our external environment. And that also means that if someone is butchering an animal, there's an exchange of energy. In fact, cutting something into pieces, there's a lot of release of energy that can occur just during this process of disassembling something.
Yeah. So then what we want to look for in that energy exchange is something that feeds us the right energies.
Yes.
Or for what you're doing is you're able to map out different parts of the body and energy vibrations that might be stored from a past trauma or a food in the moment. So tell me a little bit about the machine and the type of energy tracking devices that you have sort of in your toolbox.
Yeah,
because
absolutely.
the technology to be able to do this is unbelievable to a lot of people.
Yeah.
It's like mind-blowing.
Yeah, it was to me too when I first came across it many years ago. And it all comes back to quantum physics. Quantum physics is a science that has been enabling us to create and develop these devices that are so sensitive that we can now pick up on these very subtle energies that are present in the human body. There's energy, obviously, if someone taps the energy that's coming out of a power plug, you'll notice that this is very powerful energy. But we're talking about the subtle energies of the body.
Yep.
This is something where we need incredibly sensitive devices. And one of these devices that I utilize is it's called a bioresonance scanner.
Yep. Bioresonance scanner.
Exactly.
So that's basically an aura tester.
Yeah.
And, this blows me away because all my games that I played as a kid were like Dungeons and Dragons and games that included sort of the abilities of magicians or alchemy, that created vibrational things. So it was almost like the game was explaining a more viable map to a human being and its possibilities.
Absolutely.
Well, those games got a lot of their lore and whatnot from ancient myths and things like that.
Really?
So that's probably where they...
Robin comes in with a home run hitter here, giving us the pathway that this is just history.
Yes.
Oh.
And
so
Robin is really onto something here because the devices that I utilize, yes, they are, thanks to quantum physics, we can now develop these devices. But the knowledge that they're all based on, this has been in the making for literally thousands of years. We can look at ancient China, traditional Chinese medicine. People have known about energy and energy flow in the human body for millennia. Or if we look at India, Ayurveda, just alone the chakras, such a beautiful system of energy or energy vortices that allow us to get a very deep understanding of what is occurring in a person and also how how are we even functioning? How are we alive? How are we able to think, to analyze, to move, to digest food, and to do so many more things that if we were just to look at the body on a purely chemical or purely biological level, we would be leaving so many things, so many stones unturned, basically. And with energy, we're looking at everything, because at the foundation, you know, even when we look at chemistry, we look at the molecular structure of water, for instance. All of that is energy vibrating at certain frequencies that make these energies appear to be solid or tangible.
And when you're speaking of energies, this is several different test areas. Like when we mapped through my test, I think there was 13 or 14 columns of you know, types of energy that represented things. So maybe you can break down that a little bit, because that's I think where we get into, you know, it's an energetic test, but now we can actually see the energies that are present.
Absolutely. And I often like to start the scan or the assessment by looking at how we as energy interact with the energy within our environment. So as you might remember, we looked at how does food affect a person? Water consumption or consumption of liquids in general, kinetic energy through movement. How well
and you say food and water, but I want to break into that. So like simple, the food one. So now it's not just nutrition thoughts. It's, is it kosher, or does it have another label, or is it little, you know, is it from grandma's backyard chicken eggs? Is it picked fresh out of the, you know, farmer's field? So all of these small energetic exchanges impact all columns, but, you know, especially the food column, or, you know, what the water column. And the fact that, you know, if somebody says, we got bad water in Victoria, well, then that has an impact to the water that you're taking. And if you thank your water, or say, wow, this is a wonderful giving liquid that fuels my entire existence, then does that change the way the water can behave in the body?
Yeah, absolutely.
Is this why people say grace? Is that what that's about?
Yes.
So grace is not like a religious thing. Grace is like a mathematical equation that religion figured out.
Absolutely. And it comes back to...
We're getting all religious in here!
It actually comes back to what I said earlier. There's always an exchange. So energy is literally never a one-way street. You know, there's always... Sometimes we say for every action, there is a reaction. So that is really what I'm talking about. There's always an exchange, meaning if you have a group of people sitting at the table and they say grace before they consume their food and before they drink their water, or as you said, you know, just expressing your gratitude towards the water before you drink it, as you're speaking, you're emitting energy through sound waves into the structure of the water. So you're actually allowing the water to respond to it. Because water it's a living entity.
It has memory.
It has memory, exactly.
But it also can change memory.
Absolutely. So then when you then consume it, we have this closed loop of exchange. You gave something, and then the water gives something back. And this is, you know, you mentioned grace is not, it can be a religious act, but I think when we go way back in time, we would actually notice that a lot of these practices that we might associate with religion, they were just things that emerged because people understood way back in the day that there is always this exchange taking place. Everything is energy. And, you know, how you approach something, so will that also approach you. So if you approach water with love and appreciation and you drink that, then that water will be exactly that for you in your body too.
That's a good way to look at it.
It's like the principle of resonance.
Exactly.
If you're putting out that vibrational energy, then that similar energy should vibrate back towards you, or you will connect with that more readily because that's what you're putting out.
Exactly. You become a magnet.
Recognize it.
And so mapping out this in a test that you can offer to people will be a starting point to identify energetic things in the body that you can then steer towards or away from, or look to have more of that
Absolutely.
good energy in your life.
Yeah, absolutely. We can see, what I just mentioned about food and liquids and kinetic energy through movement. That's really just part of that first column that both of you saw under the energy source column, so to speak. And here we're just looking at, okay, how is my organism interacting with the external world? Because the external world feeds us, provides us with energy, with a charge, just like we're a battery. And in fact, all of our cells are that battery.
Yep.
And then we can move on to the other columns of the scan, and we can look at, okay, now we want to look at the different energy fields that are being emitted by the different organs in the body, because the activity of each organ generates an energy field.
Yep.
And we can actually see, depending on the strength, so to speak, of this energy field, let's say the liver energy field, we can determine, okay, is this a healthy energy field? Is this strong enough? In other words, is the liver working and receiving the energy that it needs to function properly, or is there something else that we might need to look into more deeply? And those are the starting points of the scan, where we first look at, okay, how does the environment influence a person, and is there maybe a disconnect? Oftentimes nowadays we see this disconnect between a person and the energy fields of the planet. We spend a lot of time indoors. This past pandemic, we've seen it too, that a lot of time is spent indoors. There's a lot of electronic devices that generate their own man-made energy fields. So we're losing that connection to the earth, and we need the energy field of the earth to charge our cells. And it comes back to what Robin, you said about resonance. The cells take on the energy that they resonate with. So if we want to charge our cells, we need to make sure that they're getting the energy at the right frequency. And this frequency is usually somewhere around 0 and 30 hertz.
So this would be like forest bathing.
Absolutely, that's it.
The importance of getting out into the smells, the sights, the sounds, and sort of all of those combinations of things. When you hit Beacon Hill Park, and it's just like, wow, the ducks are really tuning me.
Yes.
Tuning me back to normal.
Quack,
Yes.
quack, 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 quack. That's a good calming sound for many folks. Quack, quack, quack,
Yeah,
quack,
quack,
quack, quack, quack.
The ocean itself, too.
The ocean.
Yes.
Yeah. So what do you find through the machine when you test, people that are going to the oceans or getting that thing? You see differences?
Yes, big time.
Okay.
So oftentimes, without really asking any questions before we do the scan, if I sit down with the person and I see, there is a disconnect between them and the Earth's very own magnetic and electromagnetic fields, it's almost safe to assume that these people potentially have a job that means they have to be in front of the computer for many hours at a time. Or they're just indoors a lot, where there's other things. Even the air conditioning, it uses energy, it uses electricity. It has its own energy field that's much stronger than the energy fields out in nature.
Yeah.
So it impacts us in ways that are quite dampening for our energy. So when we then have someone who goes in the ocean on a regular basis, there's a much stronger connection. In other words, these bodies resonate so strongly with the energy and the frequency of the earth, the ocean, the trees, whatever it may be, that people start to crave it. And you might notice it too.
Yep.
You know, when you haven't been in the water for a while, there is something in you that craves it, like other people crave chocolate cake.
Yeah. And the ecosystem is so vast in the makeup of a human body. It's not just us. Like, you know, our mind thought is like, oh, I'm here. No, it's a whole bunch of stuff.
Yeah.
Well, I think we're like 40% bacteria or something.
40?
Weird
I think
like
we're
that.
more than that,
Yeah,
actually.
You know what? I want
That
to
was
do
a conservative kind of.
Yeah. I want to do a list of the makeups of what we are. Like
You
all the
might
little.
be here all
Is it all Latin?
the rest of your life.
Is it all Latin?
Yeah, maybe things that we don't even
Yeah.
have tested before.
Well, what I do know
you
is
probably got some weird bacteria on yourself there, kid.
no, I eliminate. I expel it. I probably have some weird stomach bacteria that eat in the corporate Doritos or something.
No, but even there is
Little
good
M&M
bacteria,
things,
though.
M&M bacterias.
Yeah,
Probably.
You probably got it.
Little M&M bacteria in there.
That's the devil.
I
That's the devil on the shoulder.
Yeah, I grew up on the corn syrup bacteria.
Ooh,
I mean,
yeah.
corn syrup kids for sure, but like
the corn
you know,
flakes.
Lucky Charms and all that kind of stuff.
Yeah.
So does those ecosystems stay with you forever? Vibrationally, they might.
Yes, and it's interesting. We can get rid of things physically, and at times still have what I call an energetic residue from something.
Aha.
So it happens not frequently, but it can happen with people who have had heavy metals in their bodies, and they do a pretty strong cleanse. So physically, they're getting rid of all the heavy metals. But if there is some...
Sorry, we've got a studio audience that has fallen asleep. It's not a great endorsement, but he's gotten into the vibration
Yeah.
of the theta brainwaves.
Yeah,
and
we've
now
got him resting.
He's resting well.
Max's voice is so sultry. It's putting him in a... But I don't think that's going to come through on the microphones here.
But it is good for the episode.
Yes, and we can certainly hear him. Yeah. But coming back to the heavy metals, so we can rid ourselves of the physical heavy metals, but at times the energetic imprint might still be there. And it's interesting because what can happen is that if for some reason we attach to the frequency of these heavy metals, and oftentimes this can be done through emotions, through beliefs, or even through trauma, then energetically we may not be able to get rid of the frequency of heavy metals because we have not dealt with the trauma or the emotions or the beliefs.
Wow. So it's a combination, a mathematical combination to use all these areas to complete the task.
Yes.
Which is release heavy metal trauma or a bunch of areas
Exactly.
that add this up. So this is really tactical in finding pathways for healing in several hard cases where where doctors are dumbfounded by, oh, I don't know what to do here because there's no physical signs, there's no true essence of where this is coming from, and hasn't been a field of energy testers that I've heard of. This is brand new for me, but it's probably, how many years have we been using this type of technology?
At least 20.
Okay.
It's been improving a lot. There's been some significant advances especially in the last few years.
Yeah.
But it's been around for quite a while. When we think about, the Rife machine, very similar concept, utilized slightly differently to how I utilize the devices now that I have, but it's been around for, then actually a lot longer.
The Rife machine was a fella who brought this great technology forward and was kind of like, he was like, hey, no, you don't want to do that. Like, it opposes a lot of corporate greed.
Yes.
So these things are now being spread out because there's so much information and so many people out there that it's just too strong to hold back.
That's exactly it.
Which is a good thing.
Yeah, and one thing that I've noticed with my practice is, especially over the last 2 years, people are really not wanting to deal with crap anymore. They've had it to the point where they're like, you know what? My health, I'm going to take care of this on my own. So goodbye to whoever they used to see in terms of the Western medical system. Mm-hmm. And they're just taking it into their own hands and looking for new ways and
solutions.
This is one way. Yes.
Yeah, something that actually gets them results, or at least a diagram of a pathway to start finding results. Because I found,
And not just a pill.
yeah, I found that discussing it was very freeing. Mm-hmm. Talking about it, mapping out. I've got enough almonds. I got enough this, legumes and pea protein.
Your almond energy was balanced.
I'm like, what? I'm like, what? Yeah. Like it's about the oils, and it's about the sort of the essential things the body requires. Mm-hmm. And so you can miss some things, especially this recent stuff with diet. Getting takeout and getting stuff like that. It's not good for you. You can see the results. Mm-hmm. And you can see the energetic results too.
Yes.
So having a swimming practice every day is retuning new energetic results, which is very important to release those chemicals or alchemy in the body to produce good days. And yes. So I found that's a cool thing, that it shows up in tests and can be sort of verified as, mm-hmm. wow, okay, these subjects here that are getting the forest bathing or getting ocean or getting natural things are resonating at a more appropriate human yes. health level.
Yes.
Now this is really cool because, we can talk about swimming and doing all the stuff, but having data backup that shows a pathway is super cool for sport, for seniors, mm-hmm. for all of our people that could benefit from this.
Yeah, absolutely. And it's something I've been noticing over the years that what I do, I see it as bridging the gap, because you have individuals who need the science, and I fully understand that. I was brought up in Germany where it's very academic, all about science, and then eventually I moved here to Victoria, where we have Reiki. We have a lot of alternative healing practices, and often for a lot of people it's hard to say, okay, I want to do something different about my health. I'm going to see a Reiki practitioner, mm-hmm. when they are coming from a fully scientific-based understanding of the world, and they have their doubts, and I don't blame them.
Yep.
So then here we have something where we can really merge or reunite once again this aspect of spirituality on the one hand and science on the other, mm-hmm. and making people realize that they were never meant to be separate. In fact, that they never really were separate. We've just created that separation.
Yep.
And it helps people so much when they come in, and you mentioned this aspect of talking about the results. Mm-hmm. This consultation aspect is very important. That's why it makes up actually a big portion of our sessions, mm-hmm. because people start to connect with their results, and they start to also draw the connections between, okay, this is happening in my physical body, and this is how, based on the scan, how my emotions affect it, mm-hmm.
How
my diet affects it, how my belief system as well, because that's another point
huge that
we can look at, how that impacts it too.
That impact, the belief was very, very awareness giving to me, or I don't know the word I'm looking for, but it impacted me in a way that I realized that my beliefs were impacting the energetic non-release for my stomach.
Yes.
So what I wanted to look at is to make sure that belief changed in the future. And it did change. So talking about it, reflecting on it with somebody else, it helped the person map out what the true issues were, was really incredible for that process for me. And I really appreciated that, because it's almost like a mirror. It's a mirror of, going mapping out through the words and the conversation of a pathway to healing.
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah. And I enjoy it so much, the portion where we just have a conversation. I always tell my clients, it's not like you're going to a doctor and they just read out your latest blood results. It really is a conversation, because the more a person is willing to share what these results bring up for them, the more I understand the scan, and the more I can tailor then strategies on how they can move forward, because it's always about empowering the individual so that they can take care of themselves. And this aspect of beliefs, you're absolutely right. It's so huge. I've had people who came and saw me for sessions who had been on their healing journey for over 30 years. And they said, I've done it all. I've spent tens of thousands of dollars over the years, and I'm still not where I thought I would be after all this time and after all this money. And then the interesting thing is we did the scan, and we realized that there were certain beliefs that were so deeply rooted within their subconscious mind. Popular ones are, I'm incapable, or I'm not worthy. So then coming back to the person's intention, for over 30 years, they wanted nothing more than to heal, to get out of the state of pain or lethargy, whatever it might be. But this underlying belief wasn't really ever present within their conscious awareness, so they never really addressed it. So they were constantly banging their heads against the wall, basically, always trying to heal, but there was this big hurdle that said, I'm not capable of healing myself, or I'm not worthy of being healthy. So then we started addressing those beliefs. And from then on, things actually start to sort themselves out, because you remove the underlying belief that something that is so fundamental to a person's entire being, not just organism, but their entire state of being. And we can even replace that belief for something such as, I'm capable, or I am worthy of being healthy. And then they can go back and, if they need chiropractic adjustments, they can get that done. If they just want energetic treatments from me, they can get that done. If they want acupuncture, then they're approaching all these other modalities finally from a completely different belief standpoint, and everything all of a sudden starts to work much better.
Yeah, it's being a yes person.
Yes, exactly.
Not putting barriers to the construct of belief. So that often stops a lot of people from thinking, oh, energy healing, hogwash, and then they're not realizing the conceptual facts of the power of the mind, and the one being the worst enemy because of a box thinking where that line is not allowed to be crossed. I'm not allowed to be worthy. I'm not worthy. What was that, Garth? And what were they? I'm not worthy. What is that? What are those guys?
Sorry, bro, I'm not
Entertainers.
sure about that one.
Entertainers. They're Mike Myers and Garth. We're not worthy.
Is it Wayne's World?
Wayne's World.
Oh, yeah.
Wayne's World. We're not worthy. You know what? And that's entertainment. They're paid to do that. Those couple Canadian guys, went out there and they did their thing. But that is entertainment. That's the type of things that are taught. So we have to unteach the programming.
Yes.
And this is what Quadrupod's about. bringing forth real media, real pathways to self-success. So
Yeah.
this is cool how it all lines up, and
Oh,
it's just right there for us. So this test that you provide, how do they get in touch with you, or what do we look up? And
Yeah, on my website, www.holistic.guide, and
Yep.
holistic is spelled with a W.
okay,
And that's the easiest way to get in touch. From there, people can email me, text me, call me.
Quadrupod Studios. I know that with the Mile Zero minnows, I'm testing every Mile Zero minnow swimmer that wants to. It's free here at Quadrupod. I'll pay for it, and it's all part of the NFT of teaching people the pathway for success. You know, get that ocean healing, get the understandings for
Yes.
energy that you're receiving and giving, and map it out.
It's so essential. And it's one thing, years ago when I started to get into the realm of energy, so to speak, now thinking back to it, I am so amazed by how much, not only did it affect my health in a positive way, you know, from a physical point of view, mental, emotional, and even spiritual, but also my understanding of everything, of the universe, of the world, how things interact, how we interact. Because when we come back to this aspect of everything is energy in the universe, you know, even you can look at an inanimate object such as a rock, it still has an energy field, an electromagnetic field we can measure. It has frequencies that are being emitted. So everything has energy. So from that basic understanding, when we allow ourselves to get a basic understanding of how energy works, then we actually now have an understanding of how everything works. And this goes far beyond health, but health is obviously a very important point, especially during these times. But we can build upon this. And I work not only with people who seek me out because they have some long-standing health issue or even something acute. It can also be individuals, you know, you mentioned athletes earlier. I've worked with athletes here on Vancouver Island before, especially professional surfers up in Tofino. And for them just to be able to see on their scan, you know, these people are usually pretty fit physically, but for them to also see, okay, this is how my emotions affect me. In other words, how my emotions affect my performance, how past trauma affects my performance in certain regards, in certain situations. It opened up so many new doors for them, and explore things such as meditation, or just reflecting on things before they go into a competition, for instance. Focusing on their breath, those little things here and there. But the insights alone, understanding themselves as a holistic being, you know, not just a body, not just a mind, but also this aspect that we oftentimes can't really put many words to. Sometimes we call it the soul or the spirit. When we embrace all of this, you know, we're embracing us holistically and fully, and I believe that's the only way we can reach our full potential as human beings. As beings, I should say, not just human.
Yeah, definitely. And the message, I believe, comes from the soul to the mind, and then the mind creates the body's experience.
Yes.
And that pathway should be looked at as the starting point at one's soul or spirit energy, and find the pathway where that energy is strong. And once it's strong and vibrating, then the mind and the body can have a wonderful life.
Yes. Yeah, and that is a good point too. I've come across different schools of thought where, you know, it's about ego death, killing the ego. And at the same time, people then talk about unconditional love. And it all often got me thinking, I'm like, okay, here's a person telling me that we need to kill the ego in order to be able to practice unconditional love. And I'm thinking, can you hear yourself? Like, this is so contradictory.
Yeah.
It's really, I truly believe it's not about killing the ego or, trying to undermine the mind, but finding that balance. And for me, everything starts with awareness, consciousness. And just doing one scan, even if a person decides to do just one scan once in their life, to receive these extra tidbits of information, especially the ones that are deeply rooted within someone's subconscious mind, it can be such a catalyst for change in their lives, because now they finally see things that were so deeply rooted and potentially deeply hidden within their own being that can help them live the life that they actually want to live.
Yeah, that's like a doctor that with no surgery tools, it's a simple operation, and and this technology, it's just it still makes me think about the possibilities of the future are so great. The life expectancy increases with wellness. It's not a suppressive energy. It's an exploring and creative energy. And to give that to people is a gift. So I really want to thank you for your work that you're doing, and for coming in here today and explaining a little bit about how to tap into that field of the person for our communities and for basically the world, because we can take anybody around the planet and do this. So how do we reach out and do it in that part of the business? Because I know that you can reach anyone.
That's the beauty of it. But first, I wanted to say thank you so much for just having me on here today, because a big part of my work, or what I see as my work, is just to bring it out there, whether people come and see me or someone else who practices exactly this, energy medicine, bioenergetics. And it's remarkable because I can sit with people anywhere in the world. We really just need a computer or a tablet or even just a smartphone with internet access. Because the assessment itself, we can do in two different ways. In person, I usually have a scanner where people can place their hand on the scanner. So we can then read.
That's the method that I did with
exactly
the scanner.
that,
so that
you and Robin
contact gave the information right from a 10-minute scan through my
10
body.
10 seconds,
10 seconds.
10 seconds, I know. And then on the other hand, when I work with people in other provinces or outside the country, we simply do a voice analysis. Because everything, the pitch, the volume, the depth of our voice, there's so much information, so many different frequencies that are being carried just through our voice. So by having, and this might sound a bit crazy, but by having people count from 0 to 10, we get a snapshot, a momentary snapshot of their entire energetic signature, just in the voice. And some people might go, okay, I don't understand how that works because it's just the voice. But it comes back to everything being fractal in the universe. For instance, we can look at how a cell is structured, and then we can look at how a galaxy is structured, and we can look at a seashell, for instance, how there is a spiraling shape within the seashell, or certain seashells, and we see the spiraling shape occur in so many different aspects of nature when we go bigger, like galaxy, or when we go smaller into molecular level. So that means everything is a fractal of something bigger. And that means when we do this assessment, the voice is a fractal of the entire
energy source.
Energy of that person, exactly. So we can get a very accurate reading based on a person's voice.
Well, I read tracking books when I was a kid, and that was my whole thing, tracking animals in the snow, in the dirt, and just looking at the signs to find the results. So this is kind of how I view that.
Yes, because it's a beautiful analogy. Actually, I really like that because, you look at you're trying to understand and find and determine the animal simply based on a scent or a bundle of hair or a footprint in the snow or the mud. And this is really what we're doing here. We're understanding the entire being, not just the organism of the person, but the entire being of the person by simply looking at their energetic sound structure of the voice.
Whoa, this is mind-blowing. But it's super cool because now our listeners all over the world can get and tune into this and find this. So you not only heal your community, you're healing abroad, everywhere. So you're it's how do I get into business with this too? Because I want to heal people.
Yeah, absolutely.
And this is a perfect type of business where it feels like you're giving back. You're not Coca-Cola. You're not giving people,
diabetes.
A bad vibe. You're not giving them a bad vibe. It's like the Beach Boys, good vibrations.
Yeah, good vibrations.
And so I want to be involved with this.
Yeah, for anyone who wants to be a beach boy, basically.
Pretty much.
It's a beautiful opportunity, and the company is called Ness Health.
Okay.
And they've done over 40 years of research to map out the different frequencies of the different organs in the body, the different frequencies of certain beliefs, of emotions, also the frequencies that are involved with the meridian system from traditional Chinese medicine, the different chakras. So this is another thing I love about this system that I use. We're drawing in knowledge from many different very ancient medical systems, traditional Chinese medicine, Ayurveda, Tibetan medicine, and we're all bringing it together to have a modality that is truly holistic.
We're gonna have to test Ryan and his snoring because because I think I can even hear that there's some cornflakes in there or something.
The interesting thing is a snore is a sound wave that's being emitted.
Yeah.
So technically,
we could
do a sound analysis, a voice scan analysis.
I'm doing it as we're sitting here. I'm actually doing it in my head. I'm like, holy shit, he's got some milk in there and a little bit of nostril. It's funny how those sounds were tuned into. So if somebody's voice maybe irritates you, it might be the fact that they are sending out this energy vibe or this tone or this expression. That's a really good one to sort of think about just in analyzation of your conversational ecosystem.
Absolutely.
Like here we get to have these great conversations of learning and exploring and checking, everything out with tuned right into the ear. So it's really good. It's really good now to connect that with what I'm hearing as a total experience in energetic from somebody. So a conversation is that.
Absolutely. It is that exchange. And you're raising something really interesting there. When we listen to someone and we find their voice to be irritating or the topic that they are talking about, because everything is an exchange. So they're sending something at us and it actually creates a resonance within us.
Yeah.
And if we're perceiving what
it's like an energy, it's like a wave of snore.
Yeah.
I'm really working at not laughing my fucking head off.
So it's pretty ambient. Yeah.
So at least it's giving us good vibrations because I would look to the fact, I go Quadrupod Studios. Oh yeah, that's that show where the guy snores in the background. So I want to apologize for that.
We created a very relaxing experience.
No, it's like, it is relaxing because I want to laugh, but it's interrupting the fact that your words are so powerful and poetic in the fact that they're explaining the math of all this stuff. So it's so important to get that part, right?
Well, that's a part of life is attempting
So I
to
think-
divert
Yes.
other vibrations that are throwing off our
Yeah.
what we're going for. I really don't know if this is coming through on the microphone, but it's seriously some chainsaw power back here.
Yeah.
I think we might have to sign off fairly shortly here, just for our own sanity.
It's a practice in not laughing under pressure.
Yeah.
And I failed today. I failed.
It's like when people do the staring
Yes.
contest, but it's slightly different. Yeah.
It's just it's a little bit
The
different.
snoring
but
contest.
But it's really important because, in an essence, this is what you fix. Your machine and your pathway has people being snored upon, and they come to see you, and we find out where the snoring comes from and where that vibrational frequency is embedded in the cell or the body or the liver or the heart or wherever it is. So it's really a good explanation, a physical explanation for people to see that vibration can come from that.
Absolutely.
So
And it is a beautiful example because it just made me think, if we have someone who snores quite noticeably,
yeah,
the person might then assume, okay, it's because of the diet that I have. And then we might ask the person, okay, what do you feed yourself? And it turns out that they may not be eating the foods that are truly nourishing. And then we could stop there and just think, okay, we found kind of the solution. The person has to change their diet. But it's interesting because here we're still on the level of dealing with symptoms technically. Because we can ask ourselves, why is it that a person is consciously feeding themselves a diet that deep down they know is not the best for them? And again, that's where the scan can come in so handy, because then we look at the emotions, potential trauma from like a person's childhood, for instance, the beliefs. Because if there is an underlying belief of, I am not good enough, I'm not worthy, that is oftentimes related to why a person has, for instance, trouble starting to eat a diet that is truly nourishing.
Yep.
Because here now they're going against their own programming, so to speak. They might end up filling their fridge with lettuce and other veggies, but in the end they will still order Pizza Hut.
Yep.
And not touch anything that's in the fridge, and they go, why is it that I can't change this? Then we have to look at the things that are non-physical, because it's pretty clear that it's not within the physical realm.
Gotcha.
And then we look at the beliefs, and then once we change the beliefs that a person actually finds themselves to be worthy, that changes how a person then eats, because now a person actually wants to feed themselves good
Very
stuff.
cool.
And then that can have a benefiting effect or completely eradicate snoring.
I can really take that concept and understand it. I wanted to be a boxer, so I didn't drink. I wanted to do something. So the discipline was found in the practice, and that created the pathway. And so what you're saying is to make sure that you're good enough, or letting go of that belief and changing the new belief. So I used a discipline to do my practice rather than to change that belief, because I've always felt I was never good enough, because it was always the next minute I'm going to be better. Well, and then the next minute I got to be better. And the next minute I got to be better. So it was still, I'm not good enough, but it was discipline to be a boxer and to be good enough. So that was a technique that I think people can look
Well,
to.
that's like a paradox. You're
Yeah.
always attempting to be better, but not accepting that
Yeah.
where we are now. Or
But that's
Yes.
what drives you to strive to be better. So to change that
has to have a
into
balance.
Yeah, to change it into I'm good enough, and my practice is to be a little bit better in the next minute.
Yes. What comes to my mind is when we think about a computer, we have an operating system and then we have different pieces of software. And a belief, in certain ways, it can be a bit like part of the operating system, because it really, beliefs form the foundation for our actions and inactions and how we relate to other people, how we respond to stress and so forth. And then when you used the example of discipline, that's as if we introduce a software that now tries to override certain parts of the operating system.
Yep.
So rather than having software running against or trying to override the operating system, because
Yep.
that takes a lot of energy. And
Cool.
there are probably times where people go, I'm just going to give in because
Yeah.
it's too much work. We want to change the operating system, so to speak, so that a person doesn't want to drink, for instance, or eat crappy food because they cherish themselves so much that becomes the motivation. And that is a motivation that doesn't require additional energy. And it makes things so much easier. And I truly believe that's also one of the reasons why so many people who start New Year's resolutions, so many people fall off the bandwagon within a month or two because they have underlying beliefs of, let's take the example of going to the gym. A person doesn't want to go to the gym to begin with, maybe because they don't feel like they're capable of doing it. They're capable of changing their body weight or appearance. So they try to override this through discipline. But there's only so much energy they can utilize to remain disciplined, to the point where once the energy is drained, then they're no longer disciplined, because willpower decreases the more energy decreases in a person.
Yeah.
So then what we should do is a person should become clear on why do they think they're not capable, and then change that belief into I am capable and I am worthy of, changing my body, or just changing something else, whatever it might be that they're striving for. Because from that point then onwards, the whole foundation has now changed, and they don't even have to utilize so much willpower or discipline to get themselves to the point that they actually want to get to.
They're working on a flat plane rather than pushing uphill.
Exactly. Yes. That's a beautiful way to put it. Yes.
Very good.
Is
Cool.
that another way that that psychedelics have been used in modern times, or maybe in the past as well, is helping people break those underlying beliefs in a sometimes traumatic experience, like with ayahuasca or something like that. But then it seems to be people are able to break those.
Yeah.
And even like alcoholism or addiction to certain things, they're like somehow digs down into the root and pulls those roots out.
So this will that test will also be, like you said, alcohol or drugs that people are addicted to. Maybe this test can also help get people off that type of fake fix.
Technically, because we're working with energy, anything is possible. And we can, through the treatments especially, we can change the frequency. So we can allow the cells of the body, for instance, to vibrate at a frequency again that is their innate frequency, the one that they were designed to vibrate at. And that means the cells are functioning the way they're supposed to function. And when this is happening across the board, across the entire organism, across the entire being of the body. And when I say being, I'm also referring to the emotional plane and, the mental side of things, and even the spiritual side of a person. When we have everything in a state of balance or near balance, then these cravings towards certain pharmaceuticals and drugs and whatever, or sweets or whatever else it might be, they will be a lot less or just completely gone.
Mm-hmm.
And I think the short answer is that any of this is possible.
Well, especially getting to the root and the beginning of the true issue.
Mm-hmm.
Then the issue goes away, and then that opens up for corrections in a lot of different places.
Yes, absolutely.
Cool.
That too. Thank you for bringing that up, because when we do the scan, there are certain things that show up, and we call them priorities. So those are the things that the organism itself of the person determined to be the most important things to focus on.
Mm-hmm.
And when we honor this innate intelligence of the person, of the organism, and we just focus on those elements, I like to use the analogy of, if you have several different fires, focus on the biggest ones, because the other ones, the smaller ones, will most likely extinguish themselves once the big ones are gone.
Yep.
And that's exactly what we do here too. We just focus on those priorities, so that we don't have to focus on everything at the same time, because that can be quite overwhelming for people. And then just see what things sort themselves out. It's almost like a positive domino effect that takes place.
And the time frame of all this that takes place is you do a test. Let's say it's a global person. Somebody tunes in from Las Vegas today, and you're doing a voice test. What does that process take? How long does it take? And when should they expect some results? Or
Yeah, so that's a question I get a lot.
Yep.
The sessions I usually give us 2 hours, so that we have enough time to focus on the assessment, the results that show up. Because as you know from your experience, it's really important to talk about it, to explore it. Certain things might need to be explored in depth. And then how can we empower the individual to take care of themselves through different resources and educational, through an educational platform that I actually provide for free to people. That takes up the biggest portion. And then coming back to your question, how long until people start to notice changes? It really depends on how long a person has been dealing with something. When we talk about chronic conditions, by the time a person, for instance, chronic back pain as an example, by the time a person notices that their back is aching, that is not the onset of the condition, so to speak. It's been in the making for some time. Now it's at a level where it's manifested itself into the physical body, to a point where you can really feel it through physical sensations. But it's probably been in the making for quite some time before that. When a person then starts to address it right away, it won't take much time. But oftentimes people neglect things for a while. They're like, oh, I'll just want to see if this goes away on its own. I think for most of us, we've probably experienced that before. So then we wait quite a while until we start to address it, which also means that it can take some time. But for things to be noticed, subtle shifts to occur, that can be after the first session. And it also depends on how in tune is a person with their own body. Do they notice when things change? Do they notice how different foods affect them? Or are they at this point quite disconnected from their bodies, so that we first have to reestablish this connection to the body and how the body responds to physical stress, emotional stress, and so forth. So it can take some time, and it varies. And I know it's oftentimes when I get this question, it's a little disappointing for people, because people like specific answers. But one, I don't want to falsely get people's hopes up and be like, it will always just be 24 hours and that's it. So we have to be realistic.
Yep.
And also it creates the awareness for people to know, okay, it will take some time, because it has to take some time, since it's a journey in itself. You know, nothing that we experience in the body, and this is actually a philosophy from traditional Chinese medicine, every disease has a purpose. So anything that we experience is there to teach us something. And oftentimes it's not just going to disappear up until we've received the information from it. And it's interesting because with pharmaceuticals, we can mask that so that we don't even think there is anything that wants to teach us anything until the point where it's so strong, and it's coming strong, it's coming through so strongly, because it's literally the body trying to tell you there is a message for you.
Yeah, pain is there for a reason.
Yes.
And if you mask it with a pharmaceutical, then that cause of the pain's not going to go away.
Exactly.
And if it's an energetic pain at the beginning, then that relates to a bad ecosystem in the stomach, for instance, which is being caused from the energetic start first.
Yes. Another answer to your question, when people are dealing with acute conditions, so for now I just answered your question based on the chronic conditions. For acute conditions, one example, I had a yoga teacher who had sprained their ankle to the 3rd degree hiking. I don't exactly know what it means to the 3rd degree, but I assumed it was pretty dramatic, because they showed up at my office and they had 2 crutches and one of those temporary casts that you can take off. They saw me within 48 hours of it happening. So I said, right now we're not going to do a scan, we're going to do the treatment right away. We're going to focus on that area because I can see it's swollen, there's lots of inflammation there. And it was around the ankle, so I set one of the treatment devices I have to mimic the frequency of the ankle's energy field. So basically having the client's energy field interact with the energy field that's created by this device that I have. When we have 2 energy fields interacting with the same frequency, we create resonance. And resonance allows for energy to be brought up in a particular energy field. So what I really did there was I brought up the energy within all of this inflamed tissue and then left it at that, so that the body then was able to take that energy, utilize its innate intelligence, and basically distribute that energy at the right frequency to the area where it was needed the most to accelerate the healing. And a week, exactly 7 days later, the yoga teacher came back. They no longer had crutches. And the first thing they said was, look, I can finally put weight on my foot again. And this was after 7 days. And then we did 2 more treatments. And after those, the total of 3 treatments, they were back in the studio teaching yoga.
Wow.
So when it's acute, and that's what I meant with, depending on how long something has been in the making, the sooner we kind of nip it in the butt, the faster it will go away again. Because the body then just is so incredible at
it's kind
responding.
of like putting the right energy in the foot attracted the blood cells. The white blood cells are now rushing towards there. They're just getting to work. It's basically like, when you rub something, when you get hit or hurt, you rub it a little bit, and that focuses the mind and the body to address the situation. It's almost like 911 was called. My hand's rubbing my ankle, and that's creating awareness and then function.
Yes. And we want to make sure, because there's a lot of energy out there. And a lot of this energy can be beneficial to us. But to be able to target a specific area with the right frequency, so with the right vibrational pattern, can accelerate the process so much more. It's kind of like trying to convey information but not being able to speak the language of the person you're speaking to versus being able to speak their language. So the frequency, the right frequency is basically the right language.
So have sports associations or teams got reached out to you and done like a team session?
No, not to me personally, but I know a few other practitioners, especially down in Australia, who work with rugby teams, for instance.
Cool. Yeah, a lot of inflammation there.
Yes. And, you know, the need to recover very fast, I think, across the sporting world is big. So here we have something that can do this without having to take anything.
That's epic.
I think we've delved into a good intro of the subject today, and possibly we'd love to have you back to maybe touch on some of the devices that you utilize, some of the other
the structured water.
Right. Yeah,
I went and played Wales in student rugby league. This is a college kind of thing. I played Wales and tore my hamstring and had to play New Zealand on Wednesday that same week. And I could have used this piece of equipment because the little Welsh trainer that was given to Canada for the trip took me downstairs and reformed my hamstring back to my fucking ass. And I wanted to play them so bad. I was ready to play. So he was, in a sense, an energetic healer based on his sort of practice. He was able to reform ligaments and get them ready for the next day. Yeah. I never heard of that before, but it happened to me. So I realized that with technology and equipment, this process can increase blood flow, increase mind thought of belief in healing. Really cool. Thanks so much for being at Quadrupod.
Yeah, absolutely.
And if you want to give out your information one more time, possibly.
Yeah, absolutely. It's www.holistic.guide, and holistic is spelled with a W at the beginning.
Well, now maybe Rugby Canada can win a game. Or at least repair from being beat the shit out of.
Hopefully. All right, everybody. Thanks for tuning in, and we will see you next time for another interesting topic as yet unknown. Adios, and enjoy the rest of your day.
Thanks, Max.
Adios.